Hi, everyone. Josh Rugger here in studio this morning. It is Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. Hope you're having a great start to the day. It was a loud start to the day for a lot of us here in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. Some mostly non-severe thunderstorms pushing through the area as expected, producing some locally heavy rainfall. And if you thought that was the end of the rain today, well, you'd be wrong because we got more shower and storm potential coming up, not only within the next few hours or so, but also as we head throughout your Friday into Saturday. And Friday into Saturday could be the most intense days in terms of heavy rain and severe weather potential. But I hope everybody's having a great Thursday so far. Got a few folks on here, presumed hostile. Hello, is anyone out there? Well, that's probably because YouTube gave you the notification beforehand, and then we weren't on yet, but now I'm on, so you can definitely see what we're doing now. We've got Jeremy, Dan the Man, who is getting some well-deserved rest right now, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing as soon as I get home, because I am dead right now, guys. My brain is completely fried, and we'll really need to be ready to rock and roll, especially tomorrow afternoon, because I am a little bit more concerned about severe weather potential. Lake City was a beast, says Mason, and yeah, unfortunately, that was a very large tornado. You know, here's the deal. As destructive and as widespread as those storms were yesterday in Northeast Arkansas, believe it or not, nobody lost their lives, at least as far as I know right now. I saw Ryan Vaughn's update this morning, who, by the way, did a phenomenal job with the severe weather coverage yesterday. He always does a fantastic job with that severe weather coverage. And he had to cover, tornadoes, multiple tornadoes on the ground at the same time. I'm going to rewatch his live stream after this is over to kind of see, what went down and everything there. But he is a phenomenal meteorologist. Northeast Arkansas is very lucky to have him. And like I said, he saved lives yesterday because I'm telling you, those tornadoes were violent. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some very high-end ratings for a lot of those tornadoes, including the Lake City tornado, including the ones that were going on near the Truman area. Monette as well was impacted by a very large tornado. So, again, just keep praying, keep thinking of those folks, and continue to keep them in their prayers, because not only are they going to have more severe weather potential coming up over the next few days, but they also have a very high risk for flash flooding as well in a lot of locations that were just damaged by these tornadoes. So just wanted to mention that real quick, give a shout out to Ryan Vaughn, give a shout out to all those meteorologists in Northeast Arkansas, areas of the Midwest that were impacted by these tornadoes, and just keep thinking and praying for those folks there that were impacted by all those storms. But see a lot of great people on here right now. Kimberly, Carol, Kylie, Marsha, Charlie, Mark, KT as well, praying for the folks that were impacted by the storms. And thank you guys so much for joining in. And let's get right to the forecast for Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, shall we? This is a look at Heil Heating Cooling Mega Doppler. Pretty strong storm that moved through southern Oklahoma just a few moments ago, especially near the Atoka area. But as that storm outraces the boundary, it's starting to weaken quite a bit, which is fantastic. But it also is going to produce some heavy rainfall. So this is something we need to watch very, very closely here for Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley over the next few hours. We've already seen about 1 to 3 inches of rain over the last few hours, last few days. And we're going to see plenty more of that as we move throughout the next 48 to 72 hours. Here's a look at that storm that I was just talking about. The strongest storm right now is just off to the east of McAllister along Highway 270, southwest of Stigler and Eufaula. This storm was severe. It does have a history of producing damage. In fact, there was a 70-mile-per-hour wind gust near Ardmore, Oklahoma about an hour ago. But thankfully, it's weakening a little bit. And that's because it's outracing the boundary and the bed of instability. So we hope that continues as it lifts north and east. Still got a few scattered showers going on along I-40 near Alma, but that will change within the next hour or two. Northwest Arkansas is starting to get a little bit of shower activity in and around the Fayetteville area at this time. And that heavy rain threat will start to move into the area very soon. Quite a bit of lightning right now with those thunderstorms off to our south and west. So don't want to be caught out in these showers and storms, folks. Make sure you just taking it easy today. I do think the severe weather potential overall is much lower right now, but later on this afternoon, that could change in portions of our weather coverage area. But look at all that energy that's kicking in right now. The first batch of rain already pushed it through Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. The second round cranking up as we speak just off to our south and west. And again, no severe thunderstorm warnings in effect right now, so that's certainly a good sign for our weather coverage area. There is a severe thunderstorm watch that has expired in northern Texas. Maybe another round of rain getting going over the panhandle of Texas. But here's the deal. As long as this boundary stays in Central Arkansas, the higher severe weather threat will be south of this front. Now, this will be moving more towards the north and west tomorrow. So keep that in mind once we talk about tomorrow's severe weather threat. But the greatest severe weather risk is going to be south of our weather coverage area. This is the latest day one convective outlook. You can see this enhanced risk of severe weather, unfortunately, once again, centered over northeast Texas, central Arkansas, and western Tennessee. For our area, most counties are under a level 2 and a 5 slight risk for severe weather. That's pretty much between Fayetteville and I-40. Level 1 and a 5 marginal risk for far northwestern Arkansas and southwest Missouri. Level 3 and a 5 enhanced risk does clip southern LaFleur, southern Scott, southern Logan County. It just depends on where exactly that boundary sets up. But it does look like the main threat with any thunderstorms that can get going will be large hail and gusty winds, along with that flooding potential. There is still a very low threat for tornadoes, though, and I'll show you that right now here. Again, just keep praying for these folks in northeast Arkansas, because once again, the tornado potential is there. Maybe not as far north and east, maybe not centered over Jonesboro or areas farther north and east, but still you've got this very significant tornado potential all the way from Memphis down to Little Rock and areas of southwest Arkansas. Notice how northwest Arkansas, most of the River Valley not included in that tornado threat, but it does clip LaFleur, Scott, and Logan County. So we'll have to watch any surface-based storms that can get going in these areas. But overall, as you can see, the main threat is going to be large hail and maybe some gusty winds. The large hail threat will be a little bit more maximized along and south of Interstate 40, but most of these storms are going to be elevated. Now, sometimes we get questions about what elevated storms mean. Elevated storms are basically storms that have their bases above 5,000 feet. So they're not closer to the surface. Therefore, there's not as much of a favorability to produce tornadoes. It's more of a large hail and gusty wind threat that we see over our weather coverage area. And look who's calling right now, Dan Scoff. I'll put him on speaker. This is KNWA Fox 24 weather forecaster Josh Rugger. You are live on the weather live stream with the folks here in NWA. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Don Skiff, and according to some people, yeah, we'll leave it at
that. We'll just leave it at that. Yeah, we're doing a live stream right now, just kind of talking about the lower risk for severe weather today. But I'll tell you what, tomorrow we need to watch this very closely, Dan. That boundary is going to be lifting back to the north and west, and we do have the potential for strong tornadoes over our weather coverage area.
Yeah, I know. I saw it. I saw the enhanced risk. I saw the hatched area. I had the baseball team calling me, asking about the weather, and they can play a doubleheader on Sunday, by the way. Breaking news on that. So.
Oh, wow. Breaking news.
Yeah. So I think that's going to happen, that they do the doubleheader on Sunday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And maybe try to get a game in Saturday evening. This isn't final. Nothing's been finished on that. But they were asking me, do you think there's any break in the storm Saturday afternoon, evening? I know there's going to be rain still, but as far as lightning is concerned, that has to be winding down around that time, don't you think?
Yeah, because the boundary will be pushing east by the time we get to Saturday morning, so the instability will be sapped very quickly. So I do agree with that. I think it would just pretty much be plain old regular rain at that point with very little storm potential, if at all, by the time we get to Saturday afternoon.
Rain.
Well,
what about Friday midday? Do you think there's going to be a window of opportunity midday as a warm front lifts northward?
There will be.
I told them the window will be too narrow.
It will be too narrow. Yeah.
The gate will be too narrow to pass, although you should go through the narrow gates.
Yeah.
But as far as the narrow gate for that, I think it's going to be too narrow.
Yeah.
Because they could have a game and then it starts storming and then it's dangerous.
And bad storms too. I mean, these could be very dangerous storms that people do not need to be out in. That's for sure.
We need to make sure we got all our ducks in a row. We got all our troops assembled and ready to go, because I think Friday we've had the right jab, we've had the left cross. We'll have the body blow today, and then tomorrow we get the uppercut.
The big uppercut, trying to do the knockout punch.
Yep.
as that energy really swings in. I mean, it's crazy because you think about it, the main piece of energy has kind of been lagging behind a little bit. It's been more subtle forcing over the last few days when you look at the vorticity map. But tomorrow is really when that energy gets progged to the north and east. And
what are the odds that one front doesn't make it into northwest Arkansas? I've seen that before too, but I don't know. Sometimes cloud cover and rain ahead of it, like what we're seeing for Friday morning, it seems a little suspicious that it makes it all the way to northwest Arkansas, in my opinion.
yeah, it's very much up in the air for NWA, especially north of the Bobby Hopper Tunnel. That's what I said in the meeting today. I was saying about the Bobby Hopper Tunnel. I think it may struggle to get that far north and west, but with how powerful the storm system is, man, it can sometimes do its own thing, with the amount of energy that we've got in place. I really think, though, if you live in the River Valley tomorrow, you're really going to be under the gun with that second piece of energy, because I do think the boundary makes it past I-40 at the very least. The very least. And again, when you have that boundary that moves through, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the live stream, but if the storms take the correct motion and they ride that boundary, they can take off really fast.
Yeah, I saw the HRRR progging supercells, so that should be interesting.
Yep.
Well, I'm doing some cleaning here in the house, and then I'm going to be running to my son's TLX Team Leadership Experience graduation, and then I'll be headed into work and do it all over again.
Rocking and rolling, as they say.
Yeah.
I was telling the people in the editorial meeting, so I got home at around 3:30. I was going to take a 1-hour nap because I was going to get back up and do some homework, and I slept past my alarm and woke up at 8. So I just had to wake up at 8 and do my homework after that. So
8 this morning or
8 p.m. 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's 8 a.m.
You're doing it, man. You're superhuman. So I'm at my old age, it's a little bit tougher. But oh, come on. I just saw it.
Now we got Josh Harbison here.
Are you on the live stream?
We are.
Josh, I'll let you get back to the live stream.
Mm-hmm.
And we will talk to you later.
All right. Sounds good, Dan. See you soon, man. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
How's he doing?
He's doing good.
Yeah.
He got enough rest.
Okay.
So
Good.
rocking and rolling. This is our news director, Josh Harbison, by the way.
So what I'd like you to do, if this is okay, and I don't care if folks know this, I'm trying to plan coverage for our crews for not necessarily today unless we need to, but really for more tomorrow and into the week. So can you show me kind of a future track of just kind of walk me through the rest of the day today, tomorrow morning, and then into tomorrow afternoon? Just show me kind of what it shows.
Yeah, that's perfect because we're about to do that right now here on the live stream. So
I guess I could have just watched your live stream.
But no, this is perfect. So this is the deal. So for the rest of the day today, what we're expecting is, because the boundary is off to our south and east, most of these showers and storms will remain below severe limits. We could see maybe some stronger storms along and south of Interstate 40, but notice those temperatures generally in the 50s and 60s. So you see how those storms are a little bit more intense in the River Valley at 2-3 p.m. Those could produce large hail, gusty winds, maybe a tornado threat if that boundary lifts to the north and west, but I have my doubts right now, just based on how cold those temperatures are. So as we move throughout the rest of the day today, we'll see some lighter rainfall. Once this piece of energy moves out, which it's moving in right now, it should move out by 12 p.m. Most of this afternoon will be more scattered showers with some thunderstorm potential in the River Valley.
Okay.
That's really what we're looking at for the rest of the day today. Okay. Now, as we move throughout tomorrow, we'll have two distinct areas or two distinct rounds of showers and storms here in northwest Arkansas. So we'll start this at 5 a.m. I want you to pay attention to the winds here, especially. So we wake up with northeasterly winds. That is not a favorable wind for surface-based thunderstorms. Having said that, we will have some intense thunderstorm development going on right around 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. These storms are going to produce very heavy rainfall. They will have the potential to produce very large hail as well, especially along and south of Interstate 40. So really the main threat with this morning round of storms is going to be very heavy rain, frequent lightning, and large hail potential. We should get a break in the activity as this boundary lifts back to the north and east. So there's still some thunderstorm development going on in the river valley at 10, 11 o'clock. But notice how the temperatures are starting to rise at 12 p.m. So this boundary is going to try to lift to the north and west. Now, this is the latest computer model. I will say that it has the boundary a little bit farther south than the previous one, which is a good sign because that means it's not making it as far north. But depending on how far north that boundary goes, that's going to be the extent of the significance severe weather potential. So on this particular model run that you're seeing right now, from 3 to 9 p.m., we could see high-end severe weather potential, depending on where that boundary sets up. Based on this model, that boundary is right along Fort Smith and Ozark along the I-40 corridor where those winds are out of the south. That's where we're going to have a big push of instability, rapid destabilization, and surface-based thunderstorm potential. That boundary can make it into northwest Arkansas. That potential will be there as well. But based on this model, it doesn't look like it's going to be the case. Regardless, very heavy rainfall expected. As you can see, all these storms moving through the area are going to be training over the same area. So we could see several flash flood warnings between 3 to 9 p.m. as that boundary shifts off to the east. And again, temperature is still very warm in the river valley. So any of those storms could be rotating between 3 to 9 p.m. So we'll have to be watching these very, very closely. And I do think the tornado potential will be quite high along and south of Interstate 40. Look at this, even more thunderstorm development at 10 p.m. So this gives you an idea on how significant the flash flooding potential is. Now look at this tail end of future track, more rain coming through Saturday morning into the afternoon. So by this point, though, the boundary will be east of the area. So the severe weather threat will drop off during the overnight hours Friday into early Saturday morning. So that's pretty much the extent of the severe weather potential.
Okay. Go all the way through Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday's just rain
Yeah.
all day, basically.
So that's as far as that model will go. But I have a model that goes a little bit farther out. It's not as good, but it gives you a general idea of what's going on. So there's Friday evening, and then there's another round Saturday morning. Temperature is pretty chilly, but very heavy rainfall expected. I do think there will be some more rain Saturday afternoon. I think this model is underdoing things a little bit, but it won't be as heavy, just kind of a persistent rain, and then maybe one more round Saturday night into Sunday morning as well. And then one more thing for you, if you want to see the severe weather potential, the risk for the day 2 outlook. This is for tomorrow, and this is what I'm talking about. You see how there's a very sharp cutoff on that tornado potential? So wherever that boundary sets up, that's where that strong tornado potential will be in place. We could see the ingredients for EF2 plus tornadoes, as well as large hail up to 2 inches in diameter and damaging wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour. So tomorrow will really be a nowcasting day. We'll have to watch the position of the boundary very closely. I think that model I just showed you maybe is underdoing the instability a little bit. I think it at least gets to the Bobby Hopper Tunnel. And then areas northwest of there, it's kind of up in the air. But the river valley will be under the gun tomorrow. So here's a good question right here to extension of that. What all counties do you count as northwest Arkansas? Basically, Washington County, Madison, Carroll, Newton, Benton County, and then portions of southwest Missouri and Berry and McDonald County, and then northeast Oklahoma and Delaware and Adair County. The river valley basically starts in Crawford County, Sebastian County, Logan, Johnson, Franklin, Scott, and LaFleur County. So basically areas, if I was going to draw an arrow right here, it'd be right here. This is the cutoff line between northwest Arkansas and the river valley. So if you live north of that line, especially in Benton and Washington County, that's northwest Arkansas. South there, Crawford, Sebastian, Scott County, that's the river valley. So that's what we consider the river valley. So good question right there. And I see several other questions coming in right now. A lot of folks talking about the rain that's moving in. So let's get to those WeatherBug Network cameras. Take a look at what's going on. First of all, I got a nice 4-panel view for all of y'all. I've got set up for the river valley. That's where the most intense thunderstorms are expected.
Mr. Josh, sir.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, Josh. Let me know if you need anything else. So here's a look at the 4-panel view. So this is looking at Boonville, Fort Smith Public Library, Mount Magazine, and Waldron. We're looking off to the southwest on all these storms here. And as you can see, again, I talked about this extensively yesterday as well. A lot of these storms are high-based, elevated cells. So they're not close to the surface, which is why the tornado potential is not very high for today here in northwest Arkansas or the river valley. Having said that, we still are going to get the heavy rain potential for northwest Arkansas and the river valley. And we're still going to see that flash flooding risk increase as we move throughout the next several hours. So that's a look at some of the WeatherBug Network cameras in the River Valley. We're getting some folks that are reporting hail in Bentonville. So let's look at the Bentonville Square camera. You can see some heavy rain falling there over the Bentonville Square. Fulbright Junior High School camera. Here's a look at Bella Vista. Again, very wet roadways right now as well in Northwest Arkansas. So you got to make sure you're taking it nice and easy on the roads. There's Decatur. There's a City Hall camera. Graduate Hotel camera. Kessler Mountain. Mount Sequoia. You can see the base of that thunderstorm moving in. But again, not very ominous, right? You're not seeing those low bases, right? So these storms are not surface based, so the tornado potential is pretty much non-existent right now, especially over Northwest Arkansas. So here's a look at the Posey Mountain camera too. I'll just go through all the cameras. We'll just go through a big camera tour right now. Gaither Mountain, Huntsville, Lincoln is down, of course. Rogers Pinnacle Parkway Towers cam. There's some heavy rain going on right there. So Gail was just talking about the rain in Rogers. There's a look at it right there, Gail. Siloam Springs, which was really clutch yesterday, showing some thunderstorms rolling in. Springdale Children's Hospital, WeatherBug Network camera, and the Waldron camera. So that's a look at all the cameras for Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. Again, these showers that are moving through the area right now, well below severe limits, and that's because they're outracing the boundary at this time. So these storms are out ahead of that boundary that's off to the south and east, and as long as they remain northwest of that boundary, they're not going to favor a whole lot of severe weather potential over our weather coverage area. But still could see some gusty winds. This particular cell has my eye. East of McAllister, that will be moving towards Fort Smith. You could see some gusty winds with that. Here's some heavy rainfall moving into Northwest Arkansas as well. But this is the thing, and this is what Dan was talking about too just a few moments ago. You know, we're kind of getting these little jabs right now in terms of these showers and storms, right? And those wear you down over time, right? It's the same thing with the flooding potential, right? The more that we keep seeing round after round after round of showers and storms, right, the more we have to deal with flash flooding. And that's why tomorrow is so concerning. If you were watching what I was showing our news director, Josh Harbison, just a few moments ago, the amount of rain that we could see tomorrow, it could be very high, copious amounts of rain expected on Friday. And you're talking about round after round of very heavy rainfall, severe weather potential with those rounds. This is the problem, right? With these types of setups is because with the amount of energy that we have to deal with, that flooding potential can be increased as you get more energy that pushes through the area. So we'll be watching this very closely, but I don't think the severe weather potential is all that high right now for our weather coverage area. Tomorrow, that will be a bit of a different story, but again, it depends on where that boundary sets up. And, you know, a lot of folks are asking about where that boundary is going to set up. Here's the deal, Brendan. The models are going to struggle with this. It's just not a perfect science, but I can show you what the HRRR is showing with the significant tornado parameter. So stand by for just one moment here. This is the SIGTOR parameter that you're going to see here on your screen. So again, all of that is southeast of us right now. That's where the boundary is. And according to this model, it remains to the south and east. And so that would be great for central Arkansas. That would keep most of the severe weather potential away from them as well today. They need a break. But look what's happening Friday morning. That boundary is lifting back to the north and west. And you see the tornado parameters are starting to increase. You've got a big flux of instability that's starting to move in. The wind shear is increasing as well. But this particular model is not allowing that instability to make it into Northwest Arkansas. So we'll see if that happens. I think if you live along and south of Interstate 40, you will have to stay weather aware tomorrow, because the one thing about this boundary is along that boundary, especially on the northern end of the boundary where the instability kind of stops, that's where your greatest tornado potential can be sometimes. Because if a storm takes the correct motion along that boundary, it can tap into that and really increase its low-level wind shear and increase that rotation at the lowest levels, which is what is necessary for tornadogenesis. That's sometimes the extra kick those storms need to produce a tornado. So this model has been going back and forth. Sometimes it shows the instability making it in Northwest Arkansas. Other times it doesn't. But regardless, you need to stay weather aware tomorrow, because all of us are going to see very heavy rainfall. Now, what does the SPC show, or WPC show, for the heavy rain outlook? Well, here's the heavy rain outlook for today. most areas along and south of basically the Fayetteville-Harrison line are under a slight risk for excessive rainfall. Level 1 out of 4 marginal risk for far northwestern Arkansas. But if we extend this out to tomorrow, once again, pretty much every county is under that moderate risk for excessive rainfall. And I wouldn't be surprised if a high risk was issued pretty soon with that as well. There's going to be somewhere that's under a high risk, probably in the River Valley. But regardless, widespread flash flooding does remain possible tomorrow. And that's why we are so concerned about it right now. But again, as we move into tomorrow, we have 2 rounds of thunderstorms pushing in. So the first round arrives during the morning. This poses mostly a hail and maybe gusty wind threat, but otherwise the boundary will not be in the area yet. It will not have lifted off to the north and west. So we're not talking about any significant severe weather potential during this morning round. Having said that, as we move throughout the afternoon, notice how those showers and storms become a little bit less widespread. This model is still showing quite a bit of rainfall in northwest Arkansas. So if this does verify, if we did see some scattered showers or storms hanging around Friday afternoon in the early afternoon hours, this would prevent the boundary from making it up into northwest Arkansas. But look at the River Valley. Temperatures in the middle to upper 60s to lower 70s. Obviously, the boundary has lifted to the north by this point. Those showers and storms will be more intense between 3 to 9 p.m. with that second round of storms. You can see some of these cells already trying to rotate here on Future Track, but for northwest Arkansas, temperatures are still in the middle to upper 50s to lower 60s, according to this model, because the boundary doesn't make it that far. Will that happen? That remains to be seen, but if this model were to verify, the severe weather potential would not be as significant for northwest Arkansas. So, take this with a grain of salt right now. We're going to be watching this very closely, but look at all the heavy rain. Regardless, there's going to be heavy rain everywhere tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening, which is why the flooding risk is so significant and why we have to watch Saturday morning as well, because look at this, more showers and storms are pushing into northwest Arkansas. So, aside from flooding risk, any concerns for traveling from northwest Arkansas to Branson around lunchtime tomorrow? Actually, Kristen, around lunchtime might be the best time, because if I go back here, notice we've got very heavy rain moving through early in the morning, right around 5 to 8, 9 o'clock a.m. But look at 10, 11, 12. Yes, there's rain, but it's not nearly as heavy. It's kind of a break. So that will probably be the best time. Between 10 a.m. to 2, 3 p.m., I think would be the best time, because after 2 to 3 p.m., those storms are ramping back up again and causing very heavy rainfall, gusty winds, lightning, hail, and tornado potential south of you in the River Valley. But nonetheless, if that boundary makes it farther north and west, then you'll be dealing with that in Branson as well. So something to watch very, very closely as we move throughout tomorrow afternoon to the evening. And if you're thinking about a time frame for tomorrow evening, significant severe weather potential, it'll be between about 3 to 10 p.m. So that's what we're looking at. Here's a good way to illustrate that as well with the 2-day forecast timeline. Again, 100 very high rain chances for today, obviously, at least throughout the morning hours. Those will start to taper off throughout the evening. Notice high temperatures only making it into the lower to middle 60s. Overnight lows dropping off to the middle 50s. There's that first round of showers and storms moving through between about 4 a.m. to 10 a.m., 100% chance of rain. But notice how I personally have the temperatures warming up in northwest Arkansas. If this does happen, the severe weather potential would be higher in northwest Arkansas as well. But irregardless, we're going to get a second round of rain between 3 p.m. to 10 p.m., and that will bring significant flooding potential, 100% chance of showers and storms before temperatures really start to drop off as we move throughout Saturday morning. But more rain in the forecast for Saturday morning as well. So when will the day 2 risk update, and what changes do you think will be made? I do not think we see any changes to the day 2 outlook, Brendan. As a matter of fact, I think they're going to hold serve, because if you look at the outlook, there's so much uncertainty right now in terms of where exactly that boundary will actually be. So I think what they've got right now is good. Remember, these risks are based off of coverage and confidence, right? So the confidence is much higher in this enhanced risk that boundary will be lifting off to the north and west, right? So this line right here that you see, this is where the greatest confidence in this warm front is, right? This warm front being positioned right here. And I made kind of a rough drawing, but this is basically it. This is where the greatest instability is going to be. Let's say that warm front lifts off to the north and west, though. Well, then that enhanced risk will expand north and west. Let's say this warm front stays draped along the I-40 corridor, well, then your tornado potential is really going to be confined to far southern portions of a weather coverage area. So it's all dependent on where this boundary is. If showers and storms are hanging around throughout lunchtime tomorrow, excuse me, I needed to get that sneeze out all day long. So bear with me on that front. But if showers and storms stick around northwest Arkansas and the River Valley for an extended period of time, that boundary is not going to make it that far north. So tomorrow is really going to be a lot of nowcasting. We're going to have to watch the surface observations very closely. We're going to have to watch the position of this boundary very closely because this is going to determine where exactly that severe the potential sets up. In my opinion, they're going to keep the enhanced risk as is. They're going to evaluate things tomorrow, see what the latest model data is. And depending on that, that enhanced risk could move farther north and west or could shrink back to the south and east. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of what's going on. And again, look at the tornado threat for tomorrow. It's the same thing I'm talking about. The warm front right here, that's where your strong tornado potential exists, south of that warm front. But look at the cutoff, right? I mean, there's a strong tornado threat, according to the Day 2 outlook, just south of Fayetteville. 20 miles to the north, there's no tornado threat, according to this. And that would make sense if it's all dependent on where the warm front is. The northern extent of that warm front is going to determine the northern extent of that severe weather risk. Because if that warm front doesn't make it north and west, then these storms can't become surface-based. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of what's going on. But again, Brendan, not a time to panic. Not a time to, go crazy and stuff like that. Obviously we're not taking shelter right now. Nothing's going on, but it is very important to stay weather aware and stay tuned to the forecast because we're going to be watching this very closely as well. And we're going to give you the latest details as we move throughout the morning and afternoon because it's going to be a lot of nowcasting. We're going to have to use our intuition in order to forecast the extent of that severe weather potential for Friday afternoon. Again, the Friday morning storms are not expected to be as severe because the boundary should be down here. So with the boundary being down there, that would favor more of a hail and gusty wind threat. Heavy rain for sure, but not a tornado threat for the morning round. So as Maria was asking here, so nothing bad coming through during the sleeping morning hours. Yes, I think Mara, that's how you say her name. Sorry if I said her name wrong. Mara. So nothing bad coming through during the morning hours. I do think so. I think actually really before 5 a.m. should be fine. It's after 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. You're going to be running into some strong storms, but not with really tornado potential. It's really going to be the main tornado threat between 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. if that boundary lifts up to the north and west. That's going to determine the extent of the severe weather potential. So good question right there. A lot of good questions, a lot of good comments. I know some folks may be wondering about additional rainfall totals. This is going to take a little while to load because there's a lot of data that needs to be loaded here. Yeah, as you can see, a blank map. No rain. Oh, there it is. It's back. Now, remember, we've already received about 1 to 3 inches of rain. So this is additional rainfall over the next few days. 48 inches of additional rainfall expected. So this is what we're looking at for northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. Again, the farther south it needs to go, the higher those rainfall totals are expected to be. So just make sure you are aware of that. We've got more rain coming through right now. That's not going to be the last of the rain because we're going to have more coming through tomorrow, more coming through on Saturday as well, and maybe even a little bit of winter weather that's coming through on Sunday. And I saw one model with snow after all this. Yeah, that's what I was just talking. It's funny because I was just about to talk about that, and you made that comment as soon as I mentioned it. And yes, one of the models is showing that. Now, it's not going to cause any impacts. Here's the deal. Do not expect any impacts from this snow. But I would not be surprised if we do see some flurries as we move throughout Sunday morning because we're going to have a lot of cold air moving through. This system is highly dynamic. Temperatures are going to be dropping off very quickly in the wake of that front. So do not be surprised if you live in northwest Arkansas, if you see a few snowflakes on Sunday morning. And look at this. You might be able to see it here. Look at that. What is that? Are you kidding me? We're supposed to be done with this. Garbage. 36 degrees, though, so obviously way too warm for any accumulation. Angie's ready for it. Angie, I want more snow. I want to see snow. Well, you know what, Angie? You might get your wish early Sunday morning in regards to that. But again, it won't cause any impacts. We're not expecting any accumulation. The ground temperatures will be way too warm. But it just shows you why we're so concerned with this system, because it's so dynamic. So dynamic. So I just love seeing the excitement from a lot of people. Why don't we see wedge type tornadoes in Northwest Arkansas? Not saying it can't happen. Well, John, we did see a wedge tornado. We actually saw 3 wedge tornadoes in one day last year, May 26, 2024. You had a 1.8 mile wide monster in Decatur. That was the largest in Arkansas history, 9th largest in United States history. You had a very large tornado that moved through Rogers as well, and a very large tornado that moved through Harrison, or just north of Harrison in Boone County. So we can get those, and we did see those last year. Here's the deal about wedge tornadoes. You know, they're rare in of themselves, right? So I know it seems like we don't get a lot of significant tornadoes in Northwest Arkansas sometimes, but it's because they are rare. The majority of tornadoes are below EF2 strength, right? And so when you do get those EF3s, EF4s, EF5s, right, they are rare events. And, you know, so can Northwest Arkansas get EF4, EF5 size tornadoes? We've had EF4 and EF5 size tornadoes in the past. Terrain does not play a role on that. It does not matter what the terrain is. You know, here's the deal. I'm going to tell you a story right now. I mention this story every time somebody mentions terrain. The Super Tuesday outbreak, February 8th, 2008, was a extremely deadly outbreak that impacted portions of central and northern Arkansas. This tornado that I'm going to mention was one that started near the Clinton area. It's considered the Clinton tornado, but it also moved through north central Arkansas in and around the Mountain View area. Mountain View has very similar terrain to us as Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. So it has very similar terrain as what we've got here in Northwest Arkansas and portions of the River Valley. Now, this tornado tracked up through Clinton, up through Mountain View. It actually caused EF4 damage in and around the Mountain View area where the terrain is greater, and it killed several people in those areas, destroyed those homes. So that's a event that I go back to every time when people mention terrain. Cincinnati, Arkansas was a major tornado as well that happened early in the morning during New Year's several years ago. We've had significant tornadoes in Northwest Arkansas. We had them last year. I'm telling you, if that Decatur tornado hit, you know, a more populated area, that would have probably been an EF4 tornado because the damage that was done to a lot of those homes was significant. And the strength of that storm was very significant. So every time somebody mentions terrain, I always mention that Mountain View storm. My grandma and grandpa survived that storm in 2008. They lived in Mountain View. And again, as Alex said, the Cincinnati tornado is a good example of how terrain doesn't matter. A lot of hills and mountains it went over. So again, you know, every event's different. It takes a lot to get significant tornadoes. And you want to, I've seen a wedge before. You don't want to ever see it. If you've never seen one before, you never want to see it because it's awful. And what happened yesterday in Northeast Arkansas was awful. And I said this at the beginning of the live stream. It was a miracle that nobody lost their life that I know of. That nobody lost their lives up in Northeast Arkansas. That's the last I checked. I haven't seen any updates, but I hope that continues. There were some injuries in Northeast Arkansas, but some of those tornadoes that happened were extremely violent, especially near Lake City, near the Truman area, near Monette. A lot of these areas were impacted heavily by this. So do you think tomorrow could be as bad as yesterday? You know, every situation is different. You don't want to make that call. I will say yesterday was a extremely potent environment in eastern Arkansas and portions of the Midwest. I don't think we're going to have that in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, but we are going to have an environment depending on where that warm front sets up. that will be favorable for strong tornadoes along and south of that boundary. But stay weather aware, folks. Stay weather aware for tomorrow and stay tuned to the forecast because, again, tomorrow's going to be a lot of nowcasting. We have to look at surface observations. We have to look at the position of the warm front. That is going to determine the extent of the tornado potential. I wouldn't get too caught up in the models right now. They're going to go back and forth, back and forth. We have to see what happens tomorrow during the morning hours. How much coverage do we see in terms of those showers and storms tomorrow? That will really determine how far north that boundary gets into our weather coverage area. So last night storms were so hard to watch, and Justice, that is very true. And again, I got to give a shout out to Ryan Vaughn, fantastic meteorologist in Northeast Arkansas, did a wonderful job covering those storms, and he's been through the ringer this year. I know he's had to deal with the Diaz tornado as well in Northeast Arkansas. That was an EF4, likely several EF4s that occurred yesterday too. So just keep those folks in your prayers. They need it in Eastern Arkansas. They need it right now because they have been getting hit with multiple rounds of significant severe weather over the last several weeks. This has been a bad year for tornadoes in Northeast Arkansas. But let's go ahead and take one more look at the weather here in our area just before we kind of start wrapping this up. I am going to keep an eye on this storm here that's located in Lafleur County now. There is some gusty winds with it. There is no severe thunderstorm warning in effect. I don't anticipate that to be issued right now, but we'll watch it very closely. There is quite a bit of lightning, though, with that storm. If I turn on the lightning, you'll see that. Also, some lightning with this storm that's moving into Fayetteville. So, some very heavy rainfall starting to roll in right now. That will be in place through about 1 to 2 p.m. We could see some lighter rain throughout the afternoon. But otherwise, I think this will be the main event for today. Another jab in the weather world right now for Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. If the sun comes out tomorrow, could the severe weather be bad? Certainly, Daniel. It just depends on the extent of the thunderstorms. If that energy kicks in, right, we see round after round after round of storms, then we won't see as significant as a severe weather risk in Northwest Arkansas. But again, we'll have to watch that very closely. Let's see here. Let's go to some WeatherBug Network cameras and take a little camera tour once again. Here's a look at Alma. This is facing off to the west. We're looking at those very high base storms right now. So their bases are very high up in the air, which is why the severe weather potential is not as great. Bella Vista experiencing some rain, some very wet roadways going on right now. Hey, I'm back. Bentonville Fulbright camera. You can see those storms starting to roll into the west side of Bentonville. Look at that. That's pretty impressive scene over the Bentonville Square right now as those showers and storms start to crank up. Very similar story over Boonville. There's Decatur. Graduate Hotel camera. There's the rain starting to move into Fayetteville right now. Starting to see some lightning strikes as well. So we'll keep it on this camera for a little bit longer. Just want to see if we pick up any lightning. In fact, we'll actually go to that Mount Sequoia camera because that will pick up on the lightning a little bit better. But look at that. We got the rain starting to roll in right now. The visibilities are dropping a little bit. Make sure you are taking it nice and easy on the roadways. Wet roadways expected, low visibilities. That's certainly going to be an issue as we move throughout the rest of the morning and early afternoon hours. Is there a chance the front doesn't even make it into the coverage area? Here's the deal, Brendan. There is always that chance. Always that chance. And I think Northwest Arkansas, there's a much lower chance that the boundary makes it in compared to the River Valley. I would be stunned if that boundary didn't make it to at least the I-40 corridor tomorrow, Brendan. That's why we need to watch the River Valley very closely. For Northwest Arkansas, it's more uncertain, which is why the severe weather risk is lower on the SPC outlook. But don't get too caught up in the risk, right? Because that could change. That risk could change. Because if that boundary lifts up to the north and west, right, then the severe weather risk is going to be higher because the coverage of the storms will be higher. So we have to watch that very closely. It is a much lower chance for Northwest Arkansas that the front makes it in. For the River Valley, I'd say it's a pretty high chance that it makes it in along the I-40 corridor. Nothing's ever 100% in the weather world, but I'd be shocked if that didn't happen. Here's a look at the Miss Laura's cam. Whoa, trying to troll me right there. I thought I was about to go out. But you could see some rain moving through Fort Smith. About to get some pretty heavy rainfall there. Maybe some gusty winds as well in Fort Smith, so keep a close eye on that. along Interstate 40. Here's the public library WeatherBug Network camera. Very similar story. Posey Mountain. This is the perfect camera to show the high base storms. Look how high up those storms are, folks. This is why the severe weather risk is not very high today, because those elevated thunderstorms do not favor significant severe weather most of the time. They can sometimes produce hail, but yeah, usually they do not produce any tornado potential. Yeah, James, I was thinking the same thing too. I stepped outside around midnight, 1 a.m. this morning. I was like, man, I got to get my jacket on because it's pretty cold out here right now. And sure enough, we're not seeing a whole lot of severe weather potential in northwest Arkansas right now. River Valley, a little bit warmer at this time, so we'll have to keep a close eye on it. But look at this. I'm going to show you the temperatures right now over our weather coverage area. So we're going to go back here to weather one. We'll go back to some cameras in just a minute. But look at this, 57, 52, 53. That's not going to get it done in northwest Arkansas. A little bit warmer in the River Valley, but not by much. 60 in Fort Smith, 59 in Sallisaw. But obviously, the temperatures are not nearly as warm. The quality of the moisture is not as high. We still got this plume of moisture going on in Fort Smith. But again, these storms are just going to keep struggling as they move out to the north and east, which is why I'm not going to stay on much longer. I think we'll go ahead and end off coverage pretty soon. I just wanted to give you an update on the rain potential for today and, more importantly, the severe weather and flash flooding risk tomorrow, regardless of if that boundary makes it into northwest Arkansas or not tomorrow. The flash flooding potential is very real. We are going to see that threat for widespread flash flooding. So if the temps stay in the 50s, could that sap the potential tomorrow? So the initial round of showers and storms will be with temperatures in the 50s, but don't be fooled. If that boundary makes it north and west of your area, the temperatures are going to rapidly ramp up. Like you're going to go from like 55, 56 degrees to upper 60s to lower 70s, just like that. And the dew points are also going to go up just like that. So got to keep a close eye on that tomorrow. That's why I said we're going to be doing a lot of nowcasting tomorrow. So that's what we're dealing with. We'll show one more future track for the storms today and for the storms tomorrow. Again, this heavy rain threat's going to be continuing through about 1 to 2 p.m. in northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. Maybe some additional thunderstorms possible in the River Valley throughout the afternoon hours. But otherwise, the main heavy rain threat is moving through right now. And then most of the rain will be completely out of the area overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. And no, don't be sorry. That was a good question right there. I'm just kind of, I like to use my hands a lot. I like to go like that a lot, even though I can't snap very well, as you can tell. But I like to use my hands a lot. So don't be sorry. It was a great question, and I'm glad you asked it because, again, there will be some areas that remain in the 50s tomorrow because the boundary is not going to make it through those areas. Whereas south of that front, temperatures will be in the 70s, dew points will be in the 60s, and bam, we're going to be dealing with some significant severe weather potential. And you're going to really see this here. You're going to see it right here on this future track. There's the first round of storms. Notice how temperatures are in the 50s. That's not going to get it done for significant severe weather potential. We could see some hail. We are going to see some very heavy rainfall tomorrow morning, but depending on how much shower and storm activity sticks around throughout the afternoon, this particular model has quite a bit of it in northwest Arkansas. That's going to determine the northern extent of the front. But look at the temperatures in the River Valley. Lower to middle 60s at 2 p.m., lower to middle 70s by 4 p.m. So those temperatures, bang, 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 they're starting to rapidly increase. Northwest Arkansas, notice how they're still in the 50s and 60s. So this particular model doesn't have those tornado parameters making it into northwest Arkansas, but it's going to go back and forth, folks. It's going to go back and forth. We're really not going to know until we see the extent of the shower and storm activity tomorrow morning into the early afternoon. But regardless, as I just mentioned, very heavy rainfall expected, round after round after round of shower and storm development, not only for Friday evening, but also for Saturday morning as well, which could lead to that widespread flooding potential over our weather coverage area, which you'll see right here on the day 2 excessive rainfall forecast, level 3 out of 4, moderate risk of excessive rainfall for northwest Arkansas, and some strong tornado potential wherever that boundary sets up here as we move throughout Friday afternoon into the early evening hours. So that's basically a recap of everything that we're going to be dealing with over the next few days. I'm going to move myself out of the way so you can see all those risks real quick for tomorrow afternoon. Otherwise, I think the severe weather potential is very low for today. I'll keep a close eye on it, but I don't think there's going to be any trouble really with widespread severe weather today. Again, heavy rainfall, certainly a possibility. Could see some gusty winds in the River Valley pretty soon with these storms that are moving through. But otherwise, I don't see any areas of rotation. There's just no low-level instability to speak of. That's all in southern Arkansas right now. And I think that will continue as we move throughout the rest of the day today. But otherwise, folks, we are about an hour into this live stream, and I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Let's look at a few more comments real quick. What is your prediction for the Bentonville Half Marathon on Saturday morning at 7? Ooh. Better pack your swim trunks. That's all I got to say. I will say that the potential for thunderstorm Saturday morning, like lightning, is lower. I think there still could be that threat, but heavy rainfall is going to be hanging around. If they have the Bentonville Half Marathon, get ready to pack your swim trunks because it is going to be potentially a torrential downpour at 7 a.m., to be quite honest with you, based on what most of the models are showing. In fact, you can actually see that here. I could show you one more future track real quick to show you what's happening at 7 a.m. And this model, keep in mind, typically underdoes the rainfall. Look at 7 a.m. Very heavy rain moving into northwest Arkansas in the river valley. Now, temperatures will be cold. You may see some lightning south of the Bobby Hopper Tunnel, but I have my doubts. I think the instability will be quite lacking at this point. But, man, very heavy rainfall expected throughout the Bentonville Half Marathon. Just be ready if you are running in that. And I'll be volunteering at the Hogeye Marathon next week, so hopefully I see some folks out there. I'll be volunteering. And I think the weather will be better next week. And hopefully that continues for the weekend as well. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining in to this live stream. We really, really appreciate it. We really appreciate all of you guys and your questions, your comments, and everything. We love answering them. We love being able to interact with you guys. Again, I think the severe weather potential today is low. Tomorrow morning, we'll have very heavy rainfall, but the severe weather threat will be on the lower side tomorrow morning as well. We'll watch that boundary very, very, very closely tomorrow afternoon. Depending on where that boundary sets up, that is going to determine where the strong tornado potential will be. I do think there will be portions of our coverage area that will have that threat. So anyway, thank you for trusting your Weather Authority team. Thank you for tuning in this morning, asking those comments. Stay safe, stay weather aware. God bless everybody, and have a terrific rest of your Thursday. And go Hogs.